Hi, and welcome to the latest in a series of podcasts that follow along with our book, The Wizard of God. This is Steve Roy, and today we're going to be discussing Chapter 4. Once again, you're invited to download a free digital copy of The Wizard of God from our website, wizardofgod.com. Or if you like, you can purchase a paper copy through Amazon or Barnes & Noble. In these podcasts, we're going chapter by chapter, discussing our character's journey through the land of God. If you haven't read chapters 1 through 4 yet, please do. Okay? Well, let's get started. At the beginning of chapter 4, Grace and Hayden are heading into a forest. As they go on, the path gets increasingly hard to follow until they aren't able to identify the path at all. They're lost and hungry. Trying to find your way when you don't have any idea what the way looks like can be frightening. Hayden tried asking the universe again for some help, but still no answer. Finally, Grace's dog Terrence discovers a clearing in the forest, and to their amazement, it's filled with an incredible variety of fruit trees. They waste no time picking and eating the delicious fruit. Their mood brightens as their stomachs are filled. Maybe this is a sign that everything is going to be okay from now on. Well, it isn't long before Hayden notices another sign, a wooden one. It's a warning sign. The sign reads, "It is unlawful to eat anything not sanctioned by the government." Oh no. Grace was sure they just broke the law again. She appeared to have a knack for breaking the law ever since arriving in the land of God, and she was very upset about this as she had always been a very law-abiding person back home. So what do they do now? Obey the warning sign and go hungry, or continue eating the fruit and break the government law? Thankfully, just then the owner of the orchard shows up and lets them know he planted the trees for travelers just like them, and that someone else had put up the warning sign. Not only does the orchard owner tell them to eat all they want, he ties up a couple of hammocks for them to sleep in for the night. This is great, but they still have a decision to make. In the end, of course, they choose to believe the orchard owner and ignore the warning sign. This decision would be a no-brainer for some, but a struggle for many people. We generally put people into two camps: law-abiding, good citizens, or bad, or criminal lawbreakers. The tricky part here was deciding who had the authority to make and enforce laws in the orchard. In this case, it was most likely their empty stomachs that made the final decision. At the end of the podcast, last time, I asked this question. In light of the promises Jesus made to his followers, why was Grace, a Christian, still feeling lost, searching for something to fill the empty place in her heart and her soul? The land of God has many tribes. Within the Christian sphere, there are many, many clans, denominations, sects. There is amazing diversity. I'm a Christian, but I didn't grow up going to church and wasn't raised in a religious home. So when I first became a Christian, I knew I needed help, a lot of help. I needed freedom from addictions and destructive habits and general screwed upness. But what I really wanted was something to ease the continual, deep, relentless pain, hunger that was driving me to do the dumb things that led me into all kinds of trouble and ultimately into bondage. I wasn't interested in joining a religious club or debating theology. I needed help, and I needed it now. I had read and heard the promises of Jesus. He promised to freely give exactly what I was searching for to anyone who asked. So I set out on a search to find out if these promises were real and were available to someone like me. This led me into the world of the Christian religion. This led me to church. I was looking for Jesus, and this group seemed to have the exclusive rights to him. What I didn't realize was that I had entered the land of God. Well, I found out quickly that the land of God is a strange world, filled with paradoxes. It's a place where living water can be found and freely received by all who thirst, but is also often, sadly, a dark, sinister, dry place, and sometimes even a deadly place. I was trying to find my way through the land of religion in search of the true God. I believe that in practice, most major religious groups share the same basic foundational principles and have a lot more in common than they like to admit. Bind yourself, perform this work, do this act of service, deny yourself, in order to please or appease the angry or demanding God or gods. Again, the motivation to do these works is to avoid punishment and maybe receive some kind of help or reward. Maybe, if you're good or dedicated enough. However, the Christian religion, as it is commonly practiced, has a particular problem. The words of Jesus and the apostles as recorded in the Bible. For example, in the book of Matthew, Jesus says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Jesus promised rest to the weary, to those carrying heavy burdens. But sadly, as commonly practiced, today's Christian religion is not built on a foundation of rest, but of works. We'll be talking a lot more about this. But to fully rest involves both body and mind. Jesus promised rest for our souls. But for many people, Christians included, the mind or the soul is often the most difficult part to turn off or put to rest. I've had so many Christians tell me they simply can't turn off their mind in order to sleep or to rest. Anxiety is causing their brains to work overtime. An anxious soul is the opposite of a restful soul. No wonder. Life is like this unknown forest. You're heading somewhere, but you don't know where, much less how to get there. The path is unclear, and you have no idea how to find what you'll need to survive the journey. Religion comes along to tell you the way, as they see it. The government didn't own the orchard, yet believed they were entitled to exercise authority over it. Their way was for people to work first, then sometime later receive food and rest. The orchard owner provided both food and rest to weary travelers right away, with no work required, no strings attached. But work first and rest later is the way it works here on earth. First we work, then we receive our paycheck. I'm not saying this is wrong in the business world, but there are many times when it isn't the way in life. Sometimes it's impossible. This work-first way doesn't work for lost people. Grace and Hayden were lost in the forest. Imagine when Hayden asked the universe for guidance, he heard a voice, "You are lost. Now head this way and you'll find your way out." What way? Where did the voice come from? If he headed in the direction he thought the voice came from, how would he know how to stay on track? Maybe the universe could drop leaflets from the sky with directions, a map they could follow. But in the forest, all trees looked the same, so the instructions would no doubt be confusing at best. Oh, and they're very hungry and tired, and you don't think clearly when you're hungry and tired. This is exactly what religion teaches. It tells us we are far, far from God, but follow these instructions to find God, and good luck finding anything to eat along the way. With religion, the reward is always at the end. This isn't the way decent societies even operate in the natural world. When people are reported lost in the wilderness, we don't say, "Well, they got themselves into this situation, now they must work their way out." No, we send out rescue teams to search for them. What lost people need first is to be found. Rescued where they are, not where they should be. If they were where they should be, then they wouldn't need rescuing. But we don't sit in judgment over the degree of their lostness, but focus on finding them where they are. And when they are found, we certainly don't give them a map and tell them how to find their own way out. No, the rescuers use their own power to bring the lost out of the wilderness. Quite often they must carry the lost out, as they are very weak and helpless. Usually they are taken to a hospital or some place where they are immediately, before anything else is said or done, given food, water, and rest. They aren't asked to work for what they need. This is an absurd thought. They aren't capable of working. The lost are saved from their lostness. Getting rescued or saved is a gift. Well, religious thinking takes the opposite approach. Instead of focusing on the goodwill, strength, and ability of the rescue team, it puts all the focus and the pressure on the lost to, in essence, save themselves. Using another analogy, imagine someone is drowning in the ocean. The lifeguard sees what is happening, jumps into the water, and swims to them. When they reach the drowning person, the lifeguard proceeds to give the drowning person an impromptu swimming lesson, while criticizing them for their carelessness and lack of swimming ability. It's crazy, right? No, when the lifeguard reaches the drowning person, they almost always see a person unsuccessfully trying to swim. The first thing, really the only important thing, is to get the drowning person to stop trying to swim and rest. The lifeguard uses their swimming ability 100% in the rescue. If the drowning person tries to help to swim, which amounts to thrashing around, it only hinders the rescue. If they knew how to swim, they wouldn't need saving. Swimming lessons are another matter for another time. These are all basic common sense fundamentals of rescue, of saving someone. However, in the land of God, common sense is often sadly uncommon. Freely being rescued is how the lost are saved, and we take it for granted that it must be this way. Well, if we can't save ourselves from an earthly wilderness that we've walked into, how can we possibly find our way to God? Jesus gave the invitation to rest to a group of people who lived in the land of God, but were under terrible bondage. Yes, political occupation, oppression by the Romans, but Jesus was sent to rescue people from religious bondage, man-made rules that had been placed on their backs by leaders who didn't bear the burdens themselves. Religious works are like swimming lessons or a strength training exercise program. But being strong in God, strong in faith is a good thing, isn't it? I believe it is, but the question is, how do we get there? How do we become strong? Jesus said this, "How blessed are you who are spiritually poor, are destitute, because the kingdom or entire realm of God is yours." The religious leaders of Jesus' day demanded that the people be strong for God, be rich in works towards God. The same message is often given today to Christians. But this is not the message of Jesus, but rather, "Come to me, all you are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." How can we become strong by resting? How can we enter in and receive the kingdom or entire realm of God through being poor? This is a question we'll be exploring in great detail. We're almost out of time for now, but as usual, I want to end this podcast with some good news. At the end of chapter 4, when Grace is falling asleep in her hammock, she imagines feeling the land of God's massive underground aquifer, pounding, pressing against the rocks, searching for weakness. What if there was a land that you could enter that contained a massive, immeasurable, limitless underground aquifer with billions, trillions of gallons of rest and peace, looking for broken places to flow through? What if your rocky heart was the ground and your weakness, your lostness, instead of being a hindrance, a problem to be worked out in order to receive what you crave, what if your weakness was instead a crack for the water of life to flow through? Allow me to paraphrase the verse I read earlier. Blessed are the hopelessly cracked, for they are perfectly prepared to receive and flow living water. Can you imagine this? Can you hope? Well, I hope you can, and I hope you will. This is the good news of Jesus. He calls those who are poor in spirit, weak, helpless on their own. He calls them blessed. They are in a perfect position to be rescued, to be saved. They aren't looking at their own strength and resources. They're looking up, looking for the rescue helicopter, looking for the lifeguard for salvation. They are perfectly prepared for salvation, as they've stopped trying to swim. Well, that's all for now. Grace and Hayden have a long way to go, but they're about to meet a new friend. Join us next time as we continue our journey through the land of God. Grace and peace and rest to you, my friend. Bye for now.